I had to start off with that. Good morning, crypto warriors, and welcome back to the Gym in the Crypto episode 1114. Today is Wednesday, June 28th, 2023, and I'm King here to bridge the gap between the community and crypto every day, Monday through Friday at 10ish. 10ish. And I have the wrong microphone on, so let me fix that. Let's see. These microphones working. I had my main one off for whatever reason. Again, today is Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. Here to bridge community crypto every day, Monday through Friday at 10ish. Today's top stories: Tether signs MOU with Georgia to develop Bitcoin peer-to-peer infrastructure. Bitcoin no longer crypto choice for illicit crypto activity, says TRM Labs. KuCoin crypto exchange to introduce mandatory KYC in July. Sony is in the news. Sony Network invests in Japanese Web3 startup to spur mass adoption. And Fidelity readies new spot Bitcoin ETF filing, report says, and more. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and take a quick look at these prices as I actually bring up the chat as well. What's going on, everybody in the chat? See you all represented as well. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, let's bring up these crypto prices on the day. Looking at everyone's favorite coin market cap, at least some of those. Bitcoin's coming in at $30,195, down 2.5%. Ethereum is at $1,855, down 2.06%. We got BNB at number 4 at $232, down 3.5%. At number 7, your favorite Cardano at 27 cents, down 4.15%. Tron at number 9 at 7 cents, down 1.14%. And number 10, Solana at $16.21, a whole dollar increase. That's right, but it's down 3.31%. Trending tokens are Pepe down 5.96%. Kiki, won't you love me? Kiki up 18.6%. And Bitcoin is the number 3 trending coin, down 1.7% again. And recently added is Intuverse, Cloud, Dai, and Pepe 2.0. If you missed your money, making money on the first round, they said no worries. We have an entire second round coming at you live and direct with Pepe 2.0. So make sure you check those out. Really quick shout out. What's going on? Patrick Walter, Will 45, Ross Shu, Tommy Brown, Satoshi Slim, Wendy Nichols. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the stream. What's going on, Alapio? I see you up in there as well. What's going on, everyone? Top story of the day. Oh man, you gotta love some of these stories coming out today. I actually do. Today's some good day. Tether signs MOU with Georgia to develop Bitcoin peer-to-peer infrastructure. This is not Georgia of what is it? This isn't the South Georgia here in the United States. This is Georgia, the actual country. The collaboration intends to bring change to public administration and the business sector. This is a pretty good news story. Why? Because they're actually looking to do things peer-to-peer. That's right. Stablecoin issuer Tether has signed a memo of understanding, MOU, with the government of Georgia to develop Bitcoin and peer-to-peer infrastructure in the country. The strategic collaboration between the Tether and Georgian government will focus on building key infrastructure for a thriving startup ecosystem in Georgia. Collaborative effort aims to attract international attention and investment toward the nascent decentralized space. The partnership aims to foster the growth of peer-to-peer technology at a state level and help build financial tools around it. Some of the key areas of development include education on Bitcoin and blockchain technology, building payment infrastructure for merchants, and developing a resilient, open, and private peer-to-peer communication system. And here's the tweet. Tether, citing news. Tether and the government of Georgia are teaming up to make Georgia a global powerhouse in Bitcoin, peer-to-peer communications, and blockchain technology. So
in a world driven by
that message here, they had a whole tweet for it, kind of like a commercial, nothing big. They just kind of explain what they're doing. But I think this is really good news. I think this is great news. I think this is super cool. And the reason why is because, again, they're aiming to introduce the peer-to-peer technology of Bitcoin and build around it. I think that's a proper way of doing things. I think that's what's going to give you that longevity in order to succeed in this space. Because while everyone else looking at America, we're trying to develop our extranet or whatever, intranets with the JP Morgan coin or the Fed. Now, these are isolated systems. They're not open and easily accessible to everyone. There are barriers to entry. There's all types of registrations that's going to go along with it, so on and so forth. But if you're actually just building around Bitcoin and this peer-to-peer nature, then you can literally build limitless. And that everything that you build, all that growth will be used on a global scale instead of just inside your country or just with your friends and pals that you want. So I think Georgia's doing it the right way. If they can build this peer-to-peer infrastructure using Bitcoin, then build businesses around it and ancillary infrastructural systems around it to support it, I think they're going to win because once again, there's going to be two key things that's going to happen. The first of which is that they'll be able to interact with everyone globally who decides to join the Bitcoin system, and they don't need to do anything to build it, right? It's already developers building it. So Georgia as a government won't need to do any extra things to build or maintain Bitcoin in of itself outside of actually downloading the software and becoming full nodes. All right. So that's the first key thing about. And the second key thing is who says it doesn't they don't create something that's so beneficial to this peer-to-peer ecosystem that not only other countries use it, but other peer-to-peer people adopt it. And then that's where you can actually make your money back. Okay. You do make a killer wallet or a killer app, or you have the technology to do blockchain swaps or whatever it is. That next key thing that's developed for this peer-to-peer ecosystem through Tether in Georgia could be used or could be licensed to everyone. So again, to me, this is the way to do it. These are the two wins right here. It's interesting. You know, everybody likes to hate on Tether, but as long as Tether is pushing stuff like this forward, they're going to be around. So shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Tether. Great news story to start the day. Actually, it was a lot of good news stories today. So I was actually pretty happy about that. That was pretty cool. All right, next up. Not as great news. Nothing bites the dust. I don't think the soundboard is working because I don't have the correct microphone set up for whatever reason. But I was actually trying to play some sounds before the show started. But this would be one of the ones where I'm booing. KuCoin crypto exchange to introduce mandatory KYC in July. Deadline is the news, people. You all know what this means. The party is over. The fun has been had. KuCoin has already been inching towards this. If you actually look at their terms of service throughout the past few years, they've generally decreased the amount of Bitcoin you can withdraw. Of course, they kept the incoming deposits. You can do as much as you want for the most part, but to actually withdraw the Bitcoin or crypto, whatever, they've started to limit that, and it looks like this is finally why. First, I will say shout out to KuCoin for giving everyone ample time to get their whatever assets they have off the exchange right now. So this does not start until July. So if you're using KuCoin and you don't want to do KYC, I highly suggest you take it off now. But for people who are new and saying, well, why is the party stopping once they introduce mandatory KYCs? Because essentially they become centralized. And the centralized systems, especially when it comes to our value, to banking, and now to cryptocurrency, they just don't work. It's the antithesis of why we're actually here. We're here because of the technology. You don't need centralized systems with this technology. So actually putting them on a centralized system would do the opposite of everything they're here to do. And by introducing mandatory KYC, you have just added a barrier to entry and introduced a centralized system. Not only do you centralize people's personal identifiable information, or PII, which is now in one source, one area where it could be hacked, which has been hacked over and over again. Not only does that happen, but now you also add hurdles to joining the ecosystem. Now anyone with a phone and email can't be in the ecosystem and trade. Now they need to actually have an ID. Now they might need to have a home address to have an ID, right? Like there's so many layers that go along with mandatory KYC that you just want to look on the forefront. Again, just the basis of having an ID. You cannot even have an ID in some places without a home address. If you're homeless, you can now not be a part of the actual crypto ecosystem in some of these places. If you're here in Los Angeles, I mean, that's like 125,000 people off the top of my head who can't log on to places like KuCoin or Coinbase or whatever, and they're literally eliminate out the ecosystem. The crazy thing is that human capital is real. It still exists. And I am sure that any company out there, if I said, hey, I can give you 125,000 people to work for you at a very low cost, would you want it? They would say yes. They wouldn't care how broken these people are, how mentally challenged, this, that, or other. They would figure out how to make use of 125,000 human bodies. So with that being said, that is real human capital. By eliminating them out of these ecosystems, you eliminate more money in the market. It's actually counterintuitive to whatever the government is trying to do when it comes to getting everyone's money. They want to tax people crazy. You know, California is 35%. It's like, You can literally just decrease that tax rate if you bring everyone over to crypto in a peer-to-peer fashion, and there's no barrier to entry. So when these companies and these exchanges become centralized and essentially become government ran, because that's what happens when they become centralized, you are literally eliminating a lot of people in the market. And then the people who are already in the market, you're making it so much harder for them, because with this KuCoin KYC, you better believe are going to be coming the tax stuff, the tax burden they'll be sending out to you. Some countries won't even be allowed to use it any longer. Like, it's going to have so many consequences, as we've seen with so many other exchanges. And one thing I also like to ask and bring up, let me know in the comments, are there any regulated exchanges you really trust? Let me know if I'm doing this wrong, if I got it wrong. But right now, when I look at them, for the most part, you can't trust most of these regulated exchanges. Even one of the ones I actually like, Gemini, they had an issue with I can't even think of the company. Was it Genesis, BlockFi? I can't even think of the company name. Barry Silbert, who owed them billions of dollars, right? So even Gemini wasn't safe from being contaminated. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on these exchanges when they start to go over to the KYC side. To me, the party's over. The government has tapped them on that shoulder, and they're going to do everything essentially for the government instead of for the end customer, which is really about. So unfortunate to see, but hey, KuCoin had a great run. Definitely had his 2-3 years in the sun of being an all-star. And just like the rest of them, you fly a little too close to the sun, we know what happens, Icarus. So they're just the next ones up. But yeah, Jake says, if you have no way to get them alts, still use KuCoin. You can have private riches and public riches. Great point. You know what? That is one of the reasons why I was actually using KuCoin. You are right. Some of the altcoins that are popular but harder to get on some of the more primary exchanges in the U.S. and U.S. ancillary exchanges, they do exist on KuCoin. That's why I was using them. Again, though, here's the thing, where you have to weigh that at. So yes and no, Jake. He said again, you can have your private riches and public riches, saying, hey, you can still use your crypto wallets to swap DeFi and decentralized channels to have all these different assets in crypto and portfolios, which is great. So you can be rich that way. He's also saying, but hey, there's no problem with using Coinbase or KuCoin and still having your riches too. This is my issue with it. On places like KuCoin, I can't even speak for Coinbase anymore. It's been so long, but KuCoin for sure, through their terms of service, which they already been limiting, you can only take so much off the account, even if you wanted to. So let's say right now it's $2,000 a day or whatever, right? Some people might be $2,000 a week, $20,000 a day, whatever that magic number is. That's the highest amount you can take off per day. So the issue is, once again, with these centralized places, is like, hey, you don't get to determine and dictate what I do with my crypto. We already know the transactions are almost instantaneous. Like, you can see it on different blockchains. So if the transactions are instantaneous, why are you deciding to keep my crypto or keep my fiat, whatever it is? They will keep it. And then the issue with that is, if that company gets into any type of trouble, right? Whether it's a fine or a hack, or they just did bad business practices and they sold you some type of algorithmic stable coin that's not going to work. Whatever the issue is, right? They over leverage and put some of their trading account into their investing account and bought a Miami basketball arena naming rights, right? Whatever these people did on these type of platforms, if you try to get rich through these centralized platforms and something happens, they're going to keep your crypto. They're going to keep your fiat and they're going to keep your crypto. And they're going to tell you to get it back in court or whatever else happens 6 to 12 months from now. By that time already, your kids have already missed meals. You've already been able to pay for those traffic tickets. Now you're in jail. Like, the issues have already built up by that time. So that's my only deal with it, is like, yes, you still can have these public accounts, public facing accounts, and kind of keep your portfolio there. But I would definitely say not to keep the majority, because we can't trust a lot of these new companies. And it's not even really their fault. Once the government, like the mandatory KYC, once that squeeze gets put on them, like, that literally changes all of their business dealings. So, like, thus far, like, some of the things they may have been doing on the DeFi side, some of the lending practices they had, so on and so forth, like, the buck stops here as soon as the government gets involved. That could definitely change the trajectory of the type of capital they thought that will be incoming onto their platforms versus which actually is coming in, the reality of it. So again, KuCoin before the mandatory KYC could have said, hey, this is going to be another $1 billion year like last year. You get mandatory KYC, you get people like me to move off the exchange. All of a sudden, they're like, well, actually, this is going to be 100 million a year. And it's like, well, if you have people who are over leveraged on that platform already, they're probably going to be the ones that suffer first and the hardest, while others escape out of it. So again, it's kind of like layered as to what it means when these exchanges get this mandatory KYC. But again, there's no reason for it. First and foremost, we're going to be covering that today as far as crime in the sector not really even being a thing. So there's no reason for the mandatory KYC. And all it's really doing is messing up the business practices of these crypto companies. Because again, I mean, go back to the white paper. Bitcoin and those like it is supposed to be a purely peer-to-peer cryptocurrency. It's not supposed to be going through an exchange already. So once you add these different barriers to entry and KYC challenges and things like that, I mean, you have an entirely different product. It's not even in Bitcoin or the cryptocurrencies that you actually wanted. But yeah, Jacob said, true. I was thinking move it as soon as you buy it if you can, but dealing with big money is tough. No. And again, I do agree with Jake in the sense like, hey, some of these altcoins are popular or fun or have speculative chances behind it. They're very difficult to find. When you do find it on some of the exchanges you definitely never heard of, then it becomes super scary because it's like, this is a brand new exchange. I don't know anyone who's used it. I can't find reviews. Am I going to deposit my money in hopes to get this altcoin off it and back? Hi, I'm usually the guy who experiments with that. Most of the time it works. There's been times it hasn't worked. But yeah, so that's the thing where it's like KuCoin, at the very least, you know, is like, hey, this is still reputable. People use it, and I can get this altcoin on it. I'm with you. I would say do it for the dumpster diving, the low cap altcoins, and I wouldn't really go more than $2,000, mainly because, again, that's probably going to be the limit of what you can even withdraw. Once they add the KYC, I'm not even sure if it's going to be a minimum limit of withdrawal before you have to do KYC. Sometimes they still allow you to do between like 400, 800 bucks or whatever. So that's going to be up to the platform. But if they don't even allow you to do that, then again, KYC it. And as Jake said, get it on and get it off the exchange. All right, next up, we have Sony in the news. I love me some Sony. Listen, no offense to all you Xbox people out there, but Sony was like a third parent to me, okay? It raised me. I grew up on these PlayStations. Sony invests in Japanese Web3 startup to spur mass adoption. That's right. This deal includes an investment of $3.5 million, a Sony executive moving to Startel Labs, and collaboration on new Web3 tools for mass adoption. And like this photo, shout out to Cointelegraph and their artists. It is money raining everywhere with this Web3 sign in the background. That's right. Sony continues to make its mark in the emerging technology space with his recent announcement of a new investment in building a global infrastructure to support Web3. Again, kind of like what we just saw with what Tether is doing with Georgia. To me, these are the moves. America, take note. American government specifically and regulators, take note. Instead of trying to fine and tax and regulate and overregulate and figure out ways to just be a gang for no reason, start to build the infrastructure for the things that aren't going to change. Bitcoin peer-to-peer is not about the change. It's superior technology. If Web3 actually does work and we get it up and moving, and again, you're talking, and I do think there's going to be a lot of nuances to Web3 because there's no way in hell the government's going to, like, could you imagine if Kim Kardashian, for example, was on Web3? Like, I'm talking multi-billionaire, like 17 to 20 billion easy. I'm talking about Coinbase's network for her and her family. The reason why I say this, and this is important, because there is, I gotta make sure I zoom in on this. There's no way in hell our government, they didn't even allow it for ICOs with actual projects, or at least the promise of a project, the promise of actually having a business develop and all. They didn't even allow it for ICOs. They labeled those securities and said, we want the money, okay? So my point is, you're out of your fucking mind if you think the government's going to allow individuals or groups of individuals to use Web3 to literally do transactions without any third party and all the money. I mean, essentially peer-to-peer everything, but peer-to-peer social media. And now you're saying what you want. I mean, hey, it's real freedom. Don't get me wrong. It's real freedom. And we should allow. Why would any other human be afraid of another human just speaking up? It's kind of weird, right? But yes, we're scared of words. Other humans are. They're scared of what's called inflammatory speech. So we have to have these mechanisms. That's neither here or there. But my point is, there's no way our American government will be allowing individuals or group of individuals to jump into the Web3 space, literally become billionaires and have money go straight to them. It's not going to happen. And really quick, one thing I want to bring up as well. What's the word? As an aside, I wanted to bring up what's happening in Russia right now, because something I spoke on this channel about so many times that even people on Twitter, and again, the guy did, kind of apologize, like, wrong choice of words, essentially say he had to be as rude as he was. But my thing was, no, wrong choice of thought, my boy. Like, I remember it was like a couple years ago, we had the doctor come on to push back against Zay in his book and everything, or the professor. And one of the people on Twitter essentially was like, yeah, this guy King, or one of them was talking about you can use Bitcoin to like have your own military and then you can just take over the country. Like, who's going to do that madness? Look to Russia. Now, they did not take over, and who knows if he actually planned to, but he definitely wanted to make his point and his energy felt, and that's the Wagner Group CEO, of course. For those who don't know what the Wagner Group, which we have one in the United States as well, for those who don't fucking know, we just don't use them in the United States. BlackRock, I don't know what their name is now, Xeno, or whatever their name is. But yes, Wagner, paramilitary group, PMC, private military corporation, of course, works for Russia. They have been pushing the line for them over in Ukraine, not like, not as a saying, but literally they were pushing the front line for Russia. Wagner Group, 25,000 mercenaries, PMC. For those who know me, is actually something I want to do here in the United States. I think it would be great for our inner city youth, for all those people who are warriors and just don't know any better. But my point is, if Wagner Group was using Bitcoin, they had already literally pushed to the capital of Russia. Now, I'm not saying they would have won that fight or anything. Russia should have likely just smashed all of them, right? But the fact that they stood up and actually marched to Russia, to the capital, had took over one of the cities already, defying the orders of the president. You literally add billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin on top of that. You have your own country now. That quick. You literally have your own country, or at least enough people willing to fight for their own country or territory. It is literally that easy. One PMC and a shit ton of Bitcoin, you have the start of a new country. We almost just saw it over the weekend. No one will be saying anything. I mean, granted, I know a lot of these news channels, some of y'all got wet hearing the news. Y'all hate Putin so bad. I don't know the man personally here or there. He's a world leader. It is what it is. But the fact remains is that the Wagner Group was about to march on the capital of Russia, and they were going to try to challenge Putin's reign. If they had Bitcoin while all this was happening, it may have been even more possible. That is what we're talking about here. So going back to Web3, there's no way in hell the government's going to allow a guy like me to just sit here and talk to you all through YouTube. And as I'm speaking, I get to see billions and billions of dollars roll in and do what I want. I don't see it happening. I think Web3 is going to have a lot of nuances. They're just like Bitcoin and the crypto ecosystem. I think we're going to see a lot of wrenches thrown into Web3 from the gang, the government, and regulators. They're going to try to stall it and slow it down. That is until they have their Fed Now Web3 to go along with their Fed Now payments, which we're all going to be looking like, you got to be fucking kidding me if you think I'm going to join this thing. But that's what's going to be on the horizon. Neither here or there. I digress. Back to the story. June 28th, Sony Network Communications, a subsidiary of Sony and Japanese Web3 infrastructure tech company StarTel Labs, revealed a new business collaboration and a $3.5 million investment to build a foundation for the widespread adoption of Web3. The partnership will push StarTel's development of Web3 services and products, including its mission to create all-in-one solutions for Web3 development and focus on bridging real-world assets with the Web3 ecosystem. So who knows which direction they will go with this? You can see here, CEO of StarTel Labs is quoted saying developers and users need to understand blockchain tech stacks when interacting with Web3. We want to provide smooth experiences for general users, and this tool will allow them to interact with the space without knowing it. What I'm hoping to see here is for StarTel Labs to either work directly with Sony products already. So we're talking PlayStation 5, right? Or even some of the retro products, PS4 or whatever. I'm hoping to see them either work directly with the products they already have and try to develop Web3 into those products from an infrastructural level, or I'm hoping to see them use Sony's technology in general. You have to remember, Sony has a ton of different types of computer chips. Like, I'm not even about to go in detail, but when it comes to technologies, they have different technologies that are advanced. This is how they have the PS5, right? So maybe not necessarily a PS5, but maybe one of the components that goes into a PS5 they can use on another infrastructural piece to build something out in Web3. Or once again, going back to the whole PlayStation thing, maybe they use PlayStations, they build out Web3 from there. There's a ton of streamers and people doing everything else. What if they can actually build out the platforms through this? So possibilities are limitless, but they got the $3.5 million funds to do it. So I can't wait to see what actually happens. I mean, this is Sony. We're talking backing it. A startup, you have money, you have leeway, run, go crazy, come back with something cool. And hopefully we get a chance to use this in the next few years. I'm a Sony fan, so like I said, I am looking forward to this. Homie almost went there, but I let it go. Homie said they're going to bring back PS2 servers. Seriously, like I kind of thought about that as well. Demetrius Cook says the WAG group is in Africa. Yeah, I saw that. Okay, people, I got to start my other podcast. I'll mess around and talk about too many other subjects. Going to keep this crypto. But yes, all I'll say about this, I saw the WAG group in Africa. I saw the United States talking about sanctioning the Wagner group because of what they've been doing in Africa. Holy shit. I don't even have the words. You talking about the pot calling the kettle black. The United States sanctioning any country for whatever they do in Africa is beyond me. That is absolute madness. I can't believe it. But hey, as a continent, Africa hasn't got themselves together, so you expect this type of nonsense. But the United States definitely should not be sanctioning anyone for what they're doing in Africa. The United States has not left Africa alone since we've been in Africa. That's all I'm going to say. For anybody in the military who knows, you already know. The United States is in Africa deep. China is in Africa deep. Russia's in Africa deep. And it's been like this now for the last 15 or so years since I've been in the military. If you actually knew what was going on, there's already been an ancillary World War III happening in Africa between those three countries, as well as in Syria between two of those countries. Let you guess which one. So don't get me started on U.S. sanctioning anybody for what they're doing anywhere. It's kind of crazy, but whatever. Let's see. Lord said they want to challenge military commanders because they suck and LOL, and they would have kept Putin as a speaking head. That's actually what I read into the weekend too. Again, neither here or there, but the way I read into the story and when I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, it looks like whack. Like their issue isn't with Putin. The issue is with the military commanders. But Putin, being the leader and smart president, he like, it don't work like that, buddy. We can't just flip over our military commanders for a private military group. Like it don't work like that either. BlackRock had to find that out as well, almost here in the United States. So it's all right. Let's see. Okay. People don't get it. The airplane was invented in 1903. We were in space in 1961 and on the moon in 69. These next few years are going to be blazing for Bitcoin. This is what I hope to happen to see with Bitcoin. Here's my my dream world. I hope Bitcoin does lead to a globalization event to where, yeah, our world becomes efficient. Let's say efficient. Instead of having 100 plus religions, we have 5 religions to pick from. Instead of having 100 and some countries, we got 6 mega countries. You fall under the rule of one of these countries. I think if we can actually get like that one day, instead of having 1 million languages, we got 5 primary languages. If we can start to become efficient as a species, then I think we can develop the next things to actually like, okay, you do want to live on another planet. You do want to go walk around and see the Titanic or whatever. Like, I think that's the only way this all happens is if we do get on a global payment network, something like Bitcoin. That would be one less than communicate money. We figure out our language, religion, a few other things. We can stop all that beef and the arguing. All right, let's figure out how to really get into outer space now. How to do aliens really? Like we can figure out all. We can finally follow Charles Cardano to the UFO he's found and support him with this type of technology information. All right, last couple of quick stories. This one, the title is in the headline, but we have to cover it really quick. Fidelity Ready's new spot Bitcoin ETF filing. A lot of people said that is why the price continued to pump yesterday into $31,000. Hey, it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. We've been talking about ETFs all week. Fidelity, of course, is another multi-billion, trillion-dollar organization. Someone who often gets their ETFs as well. So if they were to get one, it would not be a surprise. Again, Bitcoin Zay might be right as far as once one person gets it, another 10 might get it. But again, I'm thinking it might not actually happen until toward the happening. But I agree. Once it happens, yeah, BlackRock's going to get theirs. Fidelity is going to get theirs. It looks like ARK's probably going to get theirs. What I'm wondering is this: all the companies that applied from 2013 to 2016, will they get theirs? Who knows? But again, we covered that article the other day. It seems that the only cool ones the government is looking at are those from 2021 and beyond. So we'll see what happens to that. And last but not least, great news story right here. One that I'm sure no regulator will bring up and talk about, nor any politician. But this is what's really happening in crypto. Enough of the FUD, enough of the false narratives. And I want to be clear, for all the regulators, politicians, and bankers pushing the FUD and false narratives, I really think like they have to be charged with something. This is market manipulation. First, they said this shit was fake. It's not real. Then they said it was only for criminals. And now they're literally coming around trying to give us guidance on how to buy, sell it, put in bills. This is like, why are we doing? Why do you have a task force for something that isn't real? Are we going to have a unicorn task force as well? Are we going? Are we gonna have a Loch Ness monster, a Bigfoot task force? I want to start a Bigfoot task force because Bigfoot's out there tearing shit up. I just know it. He's not real, but I'm telling you, he's like, that's literally what they're saying. Bitcoin and crypto is not real. It's for criminals, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to make a task force for it. Why? It's not real. So the same people say. So I just want to make that clear. It is market manipulation with what the regulators and bankers are doing by saying things like Bitcoin and crypto for criminals. It's not real. Shadowy super hooded coders. I saw the other day, it was a whole write-up from like, I don't want to give the wrong attribution. I would say it was from a notable news source, but essentially in the write-up, I think it was a notable news source. They were talking about Andrew Tate, and I guess he has a class. He sells classes to people for, I don't know, but a part of his classes, I guess, he talks about crypto in it. And that's the article. It was like the Times or something. They was like, Tate offers classes that include, like, I don't know what all his class include, but one of the things it said includes something about crypto. And then right after it said other crypto adjacent scam activities. And they just started naming different things. And I was just like, what? Like, how as a notable news source do you put crypto with scam adjacent activities? Like, no, just like with the regular American, like, name any industry if you want. I don't care what market industry is out. Like, people are scamming that industry. The banking industry is huge. They get scammed on a daily basis. Like, I don't care what industry you talk about. Car industry. You tell me the DMV is nobody scamming the DMV anywhere in the United States. Like, there's scams happening everywhere. So to directly put crypto as like a negative and bad guy because this individual is using it for whatever they're using it for, those individuals, like, that's madness to me. And for a notable news source, that was even worse. So my point is, for these notable news sources, these politicians and regulators, everyone who keeps bad mouthing it, at what point are we going to say, fine, this is now considered market manipulation because you're factually incorrect? So shout out to this next story to that actually shows they're factually incorrect. Bitcoin no longer, even though it's never really been, the crypto choice for illicit crypto activity. TRM Labs say, I will backtrack that. Even if Bitcoin was a choice for illicit crypto activity, before 2017, there was only like 200 cryptocurrencies, people. There was no choice. We have over 23,000 now. But this article says, while fiat channels, that's right, the American dollar, remain the dominant tool for crypto financing, criminal financing, Bitcoin appears to have fallen out of favor for criminals as far as cryptocurrencies go. Primarily because, again, with good old-fashioned police work, Bitcoin is not anonymous. It's pseudo-anonymous, and if you do use it for illicit activities, you will be found out. If you want to be a criminal, you now have the likes of Monero, or you have, Zcash, and even some of these new meme coins. I mean, shit, nobody's about to trace a billion Pepe coins to see where they went, by and large. So there's a ton of different ones outside of Bitcoin that you want to use. So let's cut the Bitcoins being used for criminal illicit activities now, especially when cash still remains king in illicit activities. According to new research, fewer cyber criminals are turning Bitcoin as their primary method of moving illicit funds, with bad actors opting to go back to fiat channels or choosing other cryptocurrencies. Kind of like what I talked about the other day. When you're talking about criminals and bad actors, again, they are not that smart. These smart criminals and bad actors become politicians, regulators, police officers, and government employees. Not saying all those groups of people are that. I'm saying there are a minority of all those populations, those groups I just mentioned, a minority of those people are bad actors. That's where they can go hide in plain sight. We had a president who said another country had weapons of mass destruction. They didn't, and we invaded them and got away with it. We've just had, we literally have a guy working for the SEC right now who's just finding anyone he chooses, while our same government and other people in the SEC has said he's going crazy and he's abusing his power. Like, these are where the actual criminals are hiding. They're not hiding. They're not smart enough to do what an SEC director is doing in the criminal underworld. They're not smart enough to do what the president of the United States is doing when he orders an invasion of a country in the criminal underworld. All right, I want to make that clear, because with that unintelligence comes the inability to use things like Bitcoin. If they're not smart enough to understand their current job is like their current job of doing something criminal and illicit will not work long term. They're not smart enough to see that. They're also not smart enough to understand how to use a lot of this new technology, man. And a lot of these criminals, not even saying that they're smart, not smart, because some are very clever, but a lot of these criminals also don't play this. I'll loan you this, and Bitcoin's going to come in 5 minutes. No, they want their money and they want it now. They want to see it. They want to smell it. They want to put their hands through it. They don't want no digital numbers on a ledger. They want their cold hard cash. All right. Can we please stop saying Bitcoin is being used for criminals? United States government is getting crazy. Digital asset compliance and risk management firm TRM Labs revealed that illicit finance volumes involving Bitcoin have fallen significantly over the past 7 years, according to its illicit crypto ecosystem report released on June 28th. So today, TRM Labs said instead a new multi-chain, era has led to a qualitative leap away from Bitcoin as a primary means of moving criminal proceeds. The firm also highlighted that cash and other forms of fiat-related finance remain the default means of criminal money movements. Indeed, cash and even older forms of finance, such as Hawala, transferring money while physically moving it, remain the default means by which illicit activity is financed and its proceeds are laundered. I can say this now. I've used Hawala. I've used Hawala nationally here in the States and then internationally as well, and it works. Or I would say I've used a form of Hawala, and essentially that's when you have a network of people. You know, if you have a network of people and everybody has money and everyone knows each other enough to know that people aren't dirtbags, and with their money they're going to pay you back or pay this or pay that or other. Yes, you can pick up the phone. Hey, so and so, boom, I need this. Somebody else pick up the phone. So and so say you did this for him. I need to do this for him. I need this from you. Like, it actually does work. Forms of Hawala. So, and then again, when you're talking about criminal activity, that's probably one of the best ways of doing it at this point. Instead of having the person you're directly doing that criminal activity with pay you, have a third party who's in that same network pay you, or just use cash, because people feel like, hey, cash isn't online. It's not a network. They don't realize you can trace the serial numbers, but in their mind, they're saying cash is untraceable. So again, most criminals are not on the computer trying to nerd out and use blockchain technology to circumvent the law. Like, you're talking about a very small select few people. Oh, I don't know, kind of like the Duquans of the world, or kind of like the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world. You realize whenever they're showing you pictures and all this art of all these criminals, the Sam Bankman-Frieds are never the pictures. However, that is like the biggest criminal in the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space, as well as Duquan of the past year. Those are the biggest criminals. An Asian guy from Singapore or China or something, and a Jewish guy, I'm not sure where he's initially from. I think some part of the United States. But those were the biggest criminals in Bitcoin and crypto. Let's be fair about this right now. TRM Labs also noted while illicit activity involving crypto has increased, crypto did not invent these criminal forms. So once again, I'll go back to that. The two biggest instigators of this Bitcoin being used for illicit crypto activity, the two biggest ones didn't even technically use crypto to invent these forms of criminality. They could have done it, and it's already been done through the banking sector. They literally just saw what some of their parents did, like literally, since this guy knows the freaking MIT professors and SEC Gary Gensler, they literally looked at what their parents and their parents' friends had done and said, we can replicate this same dupe over in the crypto ecosystem. And they did that, but they didn't have to use crypto to do it, or they didn't do it through crypto, essentially. Like, right, they didn't invent some type of new wheel of criminal activity. They literally just used some of the same old practices. They brought it over to this sector and it worked for them. The firm reported around $2 billion in crypto was stolen through attacks on cross-chain bridges in 2022, but very little of that was Bitcoin. And again, those cross-chain bridges we know for a fact are like, Binance Coin, BNB, and some of those transactions that are happening over on that smart chain were being hacked and hit left and right. Again, like hacking didn't start with cryptocurrency, right? Like that didn't start there. It started with the internet in general. It started with the digital world in general. So I'm glad to see TRM Labs. Shout out to them. Push this story out because it's getting ridiculous. As we keep talking about all this nefarious activities, like it's not even here yet. Yet we're making task force. We're paying these task forces with our taxpayer money, and there's no one to even go after. The people that actually have to go after are the people who are actually creating the task forces themselves, but we know they won't investigate themselves. Woo! Man, gotta love some gang shit, man. All right. Hey, listen, if you don't like the way I talk about it, why I say, so what? Cognitive dissonance, you need to go to our leaders, go to your mayor, your county commissioner, all these people, your state senators, and get on their head about what's going on because this is truly madness. But again, shout out to TRM Labs. Shout out to Tether in Georgia for that partnership as well. And what else do we have today? I want to go back. Oh, of course, shout out to Sony and jumping in bid with StarTel as well. I can't wait to see what happens. So getting them some good news stories today, some medium news, and of course some regulation that always happens. But other than that, that is the news for today. Of course, make sure you smash that like and share. We were having some issues on the podcast side with some of the downloads, but those should be fixed today. So again, pardon our delay on that, but those will be updated today later on. Other than that, smash that like and share, and we will see you all tomorrow.